Hi campers, this is Logan Gregory at Country Camper, and I'm joined today by our service expert, Ethan Winkler. So we're here standing outside of a brand new Grand Design Imagine. And the way that we're going to treat this video today is to bring you through the operation of this camper inside and out. So whether you're a seasoned Grand Design customer, some of this is going to be a great refresher for you. And if you're new to RVs, welcome to the Grand Design family. Really take this in, and we're going to go through this from really A to Z, Ethan. So let's start off. I just barely picked the camper of my dreams. It's this beautiful Imagine. Let's talk about it. I want to learn about this.
So let's say you're getting on site right now, you still have it hooked up to the truck. Take your level, throw it on the floor of the trailer. If you have to go side to side, really how you're going to level it is going to be with either pieces of wood or leveling blocks.
Okay.
The tires are going to end up driving up over those blocks, and
Okay.
then your stabilizer jacks will go down. The jacks are not going to be for leveling. They're strictly going to be for your stability.
Okay.
We'll touch on that a little later, but say you find the sweet spot from side to side, now you need to do front to back. Your tongue jack is going to be where you're doing your level in there. So go ahead, unhook from the truck, pull away, take your extend or your retract button on the right side of the tongue jack, and that's going to be where you find your pitch. So once you hit that sweet spot, you're all done with the leveling. You can go ahead and turn your propane on either by lifting this lid up, or you can take your propane cover, pull it off just like that. You have your regulator right here. So right now the selector for the regulator is feeding on this left tank right here. So if you turn it to the left, it's going to open up. You can go ahead and do the same on your other tank. Both tanks are going to be full when you pick up your new trailer, so you don't have to worry about running out of propane off the bat. But this regulator will feed off this tank and then go right to this tank once this one empties.
Now let me ask you a question, Ethan. For those campers that are new to RVing, how much capacity am I going to get out of, like, what are these propane tanks? How large are these ones that are
Well,
featured
these are
here?
considered 20-pound tanks, so it's a tough question to really answer, only because it depends on what you're running. If you're running your water heater off gas or your
Okay.
furnace, your cooktop, it's a tough question to answer, and really the only way you're going to find out your usage and how long it's going to last is get a couple trips under your belt and do your normal routine, and then you're kind of going to get a feel for your propane usage.
So for those first-time campers, you know, you may get that question right after their first trip. Hey, I ran out of propane. Maybe you didn't fill up my tanks all the way. But it actually could come down to their usage. Is that correct? So they may be using the heck out of this propane, whereas you may have other people, they might get multiple trips out of the propane here.
Exactly, yeah. It really comes down to what you're using. The water heater is a big draw on these. The furnace, if you're going late in the season or early in the season and you're finding the nights are chilly, the furnace is really going to empty these tanks a lot faster, as if, say, you're just doing a quick breakfast on the stove or even running your refrigerator on gas while you're camping. It's going to come down to your routine and how often you're using your propane.
Well, and that's a great point that you make on extending that season. Obviously, Grand Design, with their great warranty, their great build quality, they do pitch, you know, extended stays within their full-time living campers. So that's a great point. Now, you did mention something in here about a regulator. What works, or how does this work? Where if I've got this tank, this is the primary tank right here, and it runs out. How does the system work?
So it's going to lose pressure on this side, and then the pressure from this side is automatically going to kick into the regulator, and it's going to go back to feeding the trailer, your propane supply. So you could do it either way if you wanted to start on the right side or the left side. This regulator is just taking the pressure from these tanks, stepping it down to a safe, usable rate, and then supplying the trailer.
Okay, and so another question I guess that comes up quite frequently is, I do a lot of off-the-grid camping, or I might be, you know, I have this trip of a lifetime out to, say, Yellowstone National Park, and maybe these 20 pounds, I'm a little worried about that these tanks aren't going to be sufficient for my off-the-grid camping. Can a customer upgrade could I upgrade to 30-pound tanks?
Absolutely. The only difference is going to be your install or your propane rod right here. So
Okay.
it's just going to need to be the next step up. Your regulator will stay the same. Your pigtails will stay the same. The only thing that's going to change is the size of your tanks.
And so if I wanted to do that, you know, I could go through, you know, basically any RV part supply and get that all set up.
Yeah, or even if you wanted to do it even simpler than that, you could probably even find like a Home Depot, depending on where you're located. You could just find a 1/2-inch threaded rod and
upgrade the
install that,
system.
yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned at first when we were talking a little bit about getting the camper set up. So this is an automatic system here, correct? It's an auto tongue jack? power tongue
yes,
jack?
it is. It's a power tongue jack. You're
Yep.
going to have a little accent light right here. So if you are doing any night hookups or anything like that, you do have a little LED light right
Sure.
here. And then you do have your extend and retract here as well. So that is going to feed off the 12-volt system of the trailer. So you don't need to be plugged in order for it to work. But you will need your battery. And if for some reason the tongue jack goes bad, you do have a little black cap right here that you'll be able to pop off and use your crank handle.
So that's literally right here, so you can,
yep,
there's an override?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And it's going to be a righty-tighty, lefty-loosey kind of thing, and you'll see it slowly going up or slowly going down, whichever way you need to use it.
But if the power did go out on this for any reason or you didn't have what you needed, you could do a manual override.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, that's great to know. So I'm looking at the front of this trailer, and let's say I'm new to this. Can you talk to me a little bit? So this is obviously, this gets hitched up when you are.
Yep, so those are your safety chains. When you're hooking up, that's going to be one of the primary things that you want to make sure gets hooked up. These are just going to feed from under the tongue of the trailer and hook right to the receiver of the truck.
Okay.
It's a big safety aspect on this when you're towing, just in case the trailer for some reason comes disconnected from the truck. This is going to help keep that in play. Okay. Another play or another factor with keeping the trailer in the truck safely together is going to be your lanyard right here for your breakaway cable.
So what does that mean? What does breakaway cable mean?
So this is, it's more so you could look at it like a light switch. So if this pin gets pulled out, it's going to apply power to the brakes on the trailer.
Okay.
Now you will need your battery charged up, and you will need your 7-way plugged in to supply the power to that. But if this pulls out, it's going to engage the brakes, so that way if it comes apart, it's going to stay from rolling.
Okay. And another, I think, important part as well when we're hooked up safely is you have a pin through this where it's pushed forward, it's locked into place, but you've got a pin. I know we've ran into some things in the past where people maybe have forgotten that, but you definitely need a pin through there as well.
This lock will come down, it's going to lock onto the ball, and then a pin will go through there because, God forbid, if you hit the right bump at the right time, it's very possible that this could come unlocked, and just it's going to be a risk factor right there that the trailer comes unhooked from the truck. So that's going to lock down, and your pin's going to go through there to prevent that. Now,
another thing that you mentioned up here, and say you're new to camping, is 7-way. Now, a lot of people on especially older vehicles, they say, hey, I've got a 4-way plug, or they think that they're wired. What does that mean? Can you take me through a 4-way, 7-way? What does that even mean? And let's take a look at what that may be.
So the 7-way and the 4-way, the big difference is the 7-way is going to have a brake supply or power to the brakes, and then a charge line, which is going to help feed the 12-volt power to the battery while you're traveling down the road. Truck's going to help charge the battery. And those are the big differences from the 7-way to the 4 flat. So.
Okay. And then as we move in, we've talked a lot about the battery supply. Mm-hmm. So it looks like Grand Design on this Imagine, they offer this great battery rack. We have a single battery setup, but it looks like there is capacity for a dual battery setup. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah. So right off the bat, you're going to start with a 12-volt Group 24 battery. You do have options to go to 2 Group 24s, 2 Group 27s, if you're doing a little...
what does that mean? Distill that for me. I'm new to camping. What does that mean?
It's just battery sizes, so it's always going to be a deep cycle 12-volt battery, but the Group 24 is going to be your smaller battery. The Group 27 or even a 31 is just going to be it's a larger capacity battery. But if you're going off the grid, you may do 1 or 2, or you may even go to 6-volt batteries, which will be wired up a little bit differently than this, and it's just going to feed from both those batteries and give you a longer supply.
That's what I was going to ask. Is so what would be the difference? We do get those questions, especially those people going off the grid a little bit more. What's the difference of using a 6-volt battery setup or a 12-volt battery setup?
So the 6-volt battery setup is going to require 2 batteries at least to give you your 12-volt power, but the way they're wired in series, it's going to allow you to kind of pull from both batteries evenly. I mean, the batteries have more capacity than the standard 12 volts, but they pull evenly and charge evenly, so your battery supply is going to last a lot longer. And then your 12-volt batteries are just going to be kind of wired up, your red power, black is ground in parallel, so it's a little easier, but the Group 24 12-volt is going to be your standard. You're going to the campground every time, it's your backup.
Okay, and so let's say that I'm not one of those extended stay, full-time living campers in my Grand Design, okay? And it gets to the end of the season, I'm gonna winterize my camper, or maybe I'm taking it out after a long winter, I'm excited to hit the road in the spring. what do I have to do with my battery at the end of the season or at the start of the season? What's proper care? Because I've done it with cars before. I've put them away and then I've come back and the battery is dead. So what do I do?
Well, when it comes to an RV, if this is strictly just going to sit out in the yard, if you have the opportunity to pull the battery, maybe keep it on a tender, or if you have a boiler room or a garage that you can keep the battery in a above freezing temperature atmosphere, that's for the better. Now, if the battery is fully charged, it will not freeze on you.
Okay.
But if it's not fully charged, you'll find that it's going to freeze, swell up, and chances are the cells in it are going to be no good. And then come springtime, you're going to need a new battery.
And that can be an expensive mistake.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about another feature that I am aware of on Grand Design when it comes to a battery disconnect. I think that's a perfect segue in talking about as we move around the trailer.
Sure.
Unless there's anything else that you
so
want to hit
if
on.
you come over to this side of the trailer, you have your storage compartment right in the front corner. It's going to open up, go on your magnetic latch. That disconnect you're talking.
Can you actually, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
So you mentioned magnetic latch.
Yep.
So what does that mean? What are the type of latch systems out there? Why is this Grand Design different than maybe some other things that I've seen out there?
So with this compartment door here, you're going to have a magnet here and a magnet here. On other trailers, you may find that they have just a small plastic clip on the side that holds the door up.
Yeah.
Now, that's great until it dries out and ends up breaking on you. With these, you don't have to worry about them drying out or really failing. It's just going to be a consistent open and close every time. You don't have to worry about it falling on your head or anything like that.
So speaking of that, that's really convenient, I guess, at night, right? You get into a campsite late at night, you don't have to worry about fumbling around with any clips. You can literally just open the door. Now, let's say I did want to close this. What's the closing like? Is it just just let it go? Do I have to be easy with it? How do these doors compare to others?
So it's a slam latch. So technically, you could, once you take it off the magnet, just let it fall. You could walk away. It's always good to double check and make sure that it did latch. You will have a chrome compartment key that comes with your set of keys. The key number on that's an R001 key, so keep that in the back of your mind that your black slam latches are going to be your R001 key. And then when you're ready to go again, make sure it's unlocked, and then away you go.
Okay, so take me through here. I see there's a light on. I see there's a, it's kind of like sensation overload with the amount of componentry that's in here, but it looks like it's all centralized.
Sure.
So how is this different on Grand Design than maybe other RVs that are out there?
Well, there's a couple factors right here off the bat. Grand Design puts the motion lights inside the compartment right here. So if you come around so you can see, you have your 12-volt light right here. You have two settings on this light. You have a 1, which is going to be your constant on. Now remember that if you're not hooked up to your power and your battery disconnect's not off, that will drain your battery. But if you go over to your setting 2 on the switch, that's going to be your motion sensor on the light. So you have a little reader right there that's going to sense the motion every time the compartment door opens up. The light's going to kick on, so that way right away you can see. So again, if you're fumbling around at night, you don't have to worry about finding the switch. It's going to kick on for you, and you can grab or do whatever you need to do in the compartment.
Okay, so you've talked a lot about using the battery, being hooked up to your vehicle and kind of using that as a power source, but what's that primary power source if you are that person that is in your standard campground with a standard electrical hookup? What's the next step there? Can you take me through that?
Sure, so you're gonna have your 30 amp power cord right here, and depending on the trailer size, a lot of new trailers now are coming prepped for a second AC.
Okay.
And that's where you'll find a bigger 50 amp short cord. But for this one here, it's not pre-prepped, so you're going to find your 30 amp short cord.
Yep.
It's going to plug into the back of the trailer, so once we get back there, we can run through plugging that in. But before you do that, when you're at the campground getting all set up, you can get your hose hooked up to the port, get your settings right, whether or not you're using your city fill or your fresh tank fill. Kind of just take it one step at a time going down your trailer until you get around to the other side, and then you're ready to camp.
So let's get this plugged in and then let's come back to this spot because I think there's
Sure.
a lot more to unpack here. So I'm new to the campsite. It's my first time out. You're mentioning 30 amp. What does that mean? I guess, there's a lot of different electrical pieces and components that maybe are new to people when it comes to camping. I'm hearing all these things about amps and watts. What does 30 amp mean?
Well, so 30 amp is really, it's going to be the breaker size that you're hooked up to. So you're only allowed essentially is 30 amps of power draw as opposed to a 50 amp where you're allowed 50 amps. So the 30 amp is essentially just the term for the breaker that you are feeding off of.
So let me, it's my first time out, and I really want, I'm excited. I have all these bells and whistles, especially in a Grand Design. Can I run like a microwave, an AC, a TV? What can I run on 30 amps? What can I not run? What can I do?
So as long as you're hooked up to a full 30 amp circuit, whatever is currently in the trailer, you should be able to run. The only difference is if the trailer has a fireplace. Usually you might find that hooked up with the microwave circuit.
Yep.
So you'll have a switch over there, but otherwise you can run your refrigerator on 120 volts, your water heater, your AC, and essentially acts just like you're at home.
Okay, that's fantastic. So let's get this thing plugged in. So you've got your 30 amp cord here. What does that look like in comparison to your standard? Everybody's used to your standard 110s, but this is obviously a different looking power cord.
Sure, so your 30 amp cord is gonna have two angled prongs on it, and then your top ground.
Okay.
So your standard household plug is gonna have two vertical non-tilted plugs, and then your top ground. So different size, different angles, they will not go into each other. Now, a common thing that we unfortunately hear about is folks will try and plug this into, say, like a washer dryer plug, or just something that's 240 volts. That will end up damaging the electrical system in the trailer, so you always want to keep in mind what you're plugging in. If you have an electrician come to the house and wire it up, make sure it's 120 volts. And a 30 amp plug.
Got it. So there is a difference there between plugging in if you go into a 240 versus a 120, and I know we've had those unfortunate calls before. So your recommendation to folks is always check with their electrician as well on any.
Yeah, if you're ever unsure, instead of just going ahead, plugging in and finding out, feel free to give someone a call to have them come out and take a look. If you're unsure, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Now, I do know, another trend in our industry, not only with the full-time living folks, your weekend warriors, you also have this kind of new industry boom where there are folks that are renting out RVs, or maybe they're putting them in their driveways for their loved ones. We've had this situation this year where people have had to quarantine.
Sure.
So what happens if I'm not at a campsite, I'm not boondocking, but I want my electricity, I am at my home, I'm in the driveway, how can I plug that 30 amp in if I don't have that perfect setup?
So depending on your setup at home, there are options out there. You can do a 30 amp female plug to a 15 amp male plug, which will go into your standard household outlet. Keep in mind, depending on the separation from the trailer to the plug, you may find that you need to use an extension cord, and that's really going to limit what you're able to run in here. It may seem like you have your full power capabilities once you plug in, because you'll see your microwave light up, but if you're extending it out, you're plugging into a smaller circuit, then there is a greater risk of you tripping a breaker.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's get this thing plugged in, and then I'd love to get back up to the front of the trailer because there's a lot more questions that I have for you. And now we're back at the central docking station and the unobstructed pass-through up here. So Ethan, can you talk to me a little bit more? I've heard about this with Grand Design, and I know it's different depending on the makes and models, but there's this central docking station. So this was obviously revolutionary for the RV industry. This brought all the systems kind of into one central area, making your campsite setup easier. But can you talk to me about some of the different functions that are in this area?
Sure. So starting on the right-hand side here, we'll go top to bottom. You have your 120 volt outlet right here, which again, it's 120 volts, so it's not going to feed off your battery, so you'll need to be plugged in to your shore power. So this is a GFI protected outlet, so if for whatever reason you're hooked up to it and whatever you're running stops working, go check your GFI in the bathroom, and then you should go back live. To the right of that, you have your cable hookups, satellite hookups, so you'll have your living room satellite feed, your strictly cable feed in the middle, and then your auxiliary bedroom feed below that.
Okay.
So that's going to be your LAN cable. A lot of campgrounds will provide you with the cable. You may not have an actual cable to plug in from them, but if you keep one in the trailer, you'll be able to utilize your cable system, or we'll touch on the over-the-air system when we go inside.
Okay.
Below that, this is your battery disconnect. So it's a red key. When it's out, your battery's disconnected. Your battery's not charging if you're plugged in, and your trailer's not feeding off that battery. When you plug in and turn it, you're back live, 12-volt system is active, battery's charging when you're plugged in, and essentially your 12-volt system is ready to go. Your blue handle right here, this is going to be your dial to either select your fresh tank fill, which is a pressure fill when you're hooked up to this white inlet right there. That's essentially your city connection, and your fresh tank fill. So the hose will come up through your access port right here, so that way your cable, your hose, everything that's going to come in, you can keep the door closed, keep the compartment out of the elements. And if you're doing any dry camping, again, fresh tank fill is here. It's a pressure fill. Keep an eye on your tank sensors inside, so that way you can see where your levels are at. If you're at a campground and you want to just hook up and have constant water, you're going to dial that down to your city water. Hose, again, is going to hook up right there, turn your water on, and essentially you're ready to go. Below that is your outside shower and quick connect port, which is this blue hose right here. So you're going to press this in through there. It's going to be locked in. You can turn your hot or cold on, blend it so you have warm water, and you can rinse and spray anything that you want off.
So with this system too, with the quick port here, I know that some Grand Design models, depending on the floor plan, they actually have a spray port on the other side. Is that correct?
Yep, and this model that we're looking at right now does have that quick connect port, but this side where your hookup is hot and cold. Your other single ports are only going to be cold.
Okay, so you don't want to take a shower over there.
No showers over there.
So, but you can, it's the same function, it disconnects and connects in the same kind of function and same way.
Yep, it's just a quick connect. If you're familiar with hooking up an air compressor line, again, it's just going to be the same style quick connect.
Okay, fantastic. So I also see this handle in here. What is this used for? Now, I'm also seeing this for our first-time campers. Obviously, we want to talk about the stabilizer jacks here.
So this jack is going to have two functions with this trailer. It's either going to be for your tongue jack in the front. Again,
yep.
We were touching on if the jack stops working, you do have a crank for that, and for your two front, two rear stabilizer jacks. Now, once you get the trailer where you want and leveled, you're going to take your crank, and it's going to be a righty down, a lefty up kind of thing. So you can crank these down. It's always a good idea. You have plenty of storage in these trailers, so keep extra blocks just in case the layout on the campsite isn't very level. So that way your jacks can go down, make contact with the ground, and keep it as stable as possible.
Now, getting as to, talking more about, leveling your camper, why is it important to have your camper level?
So if you have, there's a couple reasons. If you have a 2- or 3-way fridge, the way that cools, being as level as possible is really the fridge is depending on you being level. Slide out operation, the way water runs off the trailers. These trailers are designed to be used at perfect level.
Okay. And so that's really important to note, of having those extra blocks, of really, getting your camper set on your site, because I feel like sometimes people are so excited, they want to get right into their camper, get right into the camping experience, but if they don't take that extra couple of minutes to get everything set, they might not have the camping experience of their dreams.
Correct. So it's a good idea to take your time, even if before you go on your first trip, or even if you're a veteran. I've seen plenty of folks that have a checklist with them, so that way they make sure the trailer's level, jacks are down, water's hooked up correctly, et cetera, et cetera.
And that kind of consistency allows for happy camping.
Exactly.
Awesome. So moving away from these stabilizers, I really want to focus on, you talked about the water system here, so let's go take a look at the black water connection here. So now we're at our black tank hookup, and Ethan, can you talk to me a little bit about this? Obviously, there's some tanks involved. I've heard of fresh water, gray water, and black water when it comes to RVs and my Grand Design. What do those different systems mean, from fresh water to gray water to black water? Can you talk about that?
Sure. So right now we're kind of at the gray tank and the black tank area. So these black outlets are for your sewer system. So you have a travel cap that will unlock and spin off once you get to the campground and you get all set up. If you're on a campsite that has the sewer dump, or even if you don't have that opportunity and you have to wait to dump till you're off site, you're going to take your sewer hose, and it's going to end up going on the outlet like this. It's going to twist on the same way as the cap. Once it clips on and locks on, you know you have a good snug fit. You'll take your other end, depending on where the dump is. You may need an extension off of your 10-foot hose, but you'll have hopefully a clear elbow so you can see what's coming out and know that your tank is clean. It's going to go down into that campground sewer system. You'll take your black tank valve first, which is going to be over here on the right.
Okay.
You'll pull that first.
Yep.
Really, you want to make sure you have 2/3 or full black tank, because you want all that water to help kind of flush everything out of that tank.
So it provides it with pressure.
Right. I hear more so horror stories of folks that will think because they're hooked up to a campground sewer system while they're camping, they can leave the black tank open and everything's going to drain out. Unfortunately, that's not the case. That water is going to end up finding its way out, but the solids build up, and eventually your tank will fill up with solids, and it'll be a bad time for you.
So no one's having fun at the campsite at that point.
Nope.
Angry phone calls will come in at that. So it's one of those situations where it seems like where, logic would tell you if you're hooked up, it's going to work. That's not the way. That's where RVs are different than your standard septic system that you would have in your home.
Correct, yeah. Rule of thumb is always black tank's going to be closed when you're using the trailer. Even when you're not using the trailer, the black tank's going to stay closed. So the only time you're opening it is when you're dumping your black tank. So 2/3 are full. Make sure you use your toilet chemicals. Those are just going to go right down in the toilet. Your RV toilet paper, which we'll touch on inside as well, because that really breaks down as soon as it hits water and allows for a smooth dump out.
And so another interesting thing that I've heard come up, and maybe first-time RVers may not be aware of, but if you aren't using your tanks correctly, of waiting till 2/3 to full, it can actually mess with the sensors as well, which will give you false readings in your camper. Is that correct? Do you run into that?
Yeah, all the time. It's very tough if you don't keep up with keeping your, especially your black tank, as clean as possible. So the sensors that are in 90% of these RVs are probe sensors that are through the tank.
Yeah.
So if you allow the sidewall of the trailer to get gunked up over time, even hair will do it. Anything that's on the sidewall of the tank will allow for those false readings if you're not keeping up with your tank.
Okay. So going back to, I guess, when we were first started talking about this, there is some differentiation when it comes to the types of water, though. So fresh water is pretty self-explanatory, right? That's your fresh water, you can drink it. Your gray water and black water. So black water is your wastewater. What is gray water? Talk to me about that.
So gray water is really just going to be, it's soapy water. It's going to be from your shower, and it's going to be from your sink. Now, depending on the layout of the trailer, you could have one gray tank like this trailer does. You could have 2, or you could even have 3. And those are always ideal to dump last because it's soapy water. So it's going to allow your hose to get as clean as possible because you're putting soap and water through it.
So with this, on this 2400 BH, which we happen to be looking at today, you would pull this lever first for the black tank,
yep,
and then you would do the gray tank, assuming that you're at 2/3 to full capacity here, where you're going to have that pressure.
Yep.
Okay. Fantastic. So I have heard about another feature, and I know that this is usually used on kind of the breakdown, but a black tank flush. What does that mean, and why is that important?
So the good thing about the black tank flush is it's really going to help keep that tank as clean as possible. It's going to help keep those sensors reading right, and it's going to help keep essentially the smell and everything down over time. So this right here, it's going to look the same as your city water connection. On this trailer, they're different colors, so you can kind of tell the difference, and you have labels to kind of guide you. But the big thing to remember when you're hooked up to this is that you want to make sure your valve is open. God forbid that the vent in the tank is clogged and you start running water through it with the valve closed, you may cause more issues down the road.
So another question with this flush is, this is used to, if you're not at that 2/3 to full capacity, you can fill up your tank to get to a point where you can actually clean out your system,
You
correct?
certainly can do that, but again, be mindful if for some reason that vent got clogged from usage and you're pressurizing the system. Another way you could do it is through the toilet, which we can touch on inside as well. You just hold your foot on the foot pedal flush, allow that water to fill into the tank to allow you to get to that 2/3 or full.
So it sounds like when you're doing this, your recommendation would be that you're not the only person doing it. Maybe you have someone watching the system inside, maybe someone's watching that monitor panel, because I have heard and read on forums that, you know, sometimes people will hook up incorrectly to that, thinking it's their standard water connection. They'll actually overfill their tanks and they'll call saying, hey, our camper's leaking, there's an issue, I don't know what's going on, I'm so confused at the campsite. Is that something that sounds familiar?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in the shops before, I've seen it at campgrounds. They will confuse this for the city water connection. They'll hook up to it, turn the water on and walk away, and essentially that water will travel up the vent through the roof, and you'll have water pouring off the roof, and you essentially could damage the tank.
So that could be a pretty scary situation, but something where you got to be mindful of it's a great tool, but you got to know how to use it.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. So now let's talk about the tires.
Sure.
So now we're at the tires, Ethan, and I'm noticing some things here. I see a green cap, I see aluminum wheels. Can you talk to me a little bit about the setup on these Grand Designs?
Yeah, so the green caps right away, that's going to tell you that they're nitro filled, and that's essentially the big benefit of that is going to be it's more consistent pressure over time. It's not going to drop as fast as air would, even if your temperatures outside are getting colder. The consistency of your tire pressure with nitrogen fill is going to stay steady.
So that's an important feature then, I guess, if I'm someone that wants to go out and really take that RV, you know, across country, and maybe I'm going to hit Colorado and I'm going to hit Arizona and I'm going to hit all these different climates. This is going to give me a more consistent and even pressure.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic.
And kind of another way to keep an eye on that is these trailers are now starting to come prepped with a tire pressure system. So if you are one of those people that like to keep an eye on what your tire pressure is at, you can get the tire pressure system from Lippert, which the Imagines are now coming prepped for. The reflections are coming almost all standard with it, and it's going to link to your One Control system and allow you to use that app and see which tire is getting lower, which wheel is warming up hotter, because it could be leading to something down the road if you're seeing the temperature spike in one wheel.
So why is that important to me? I guess, you know, I want to go out, I want to camp, I want to be able to have fun, but why is it important for me to have a setup with, you know, nitro filled tires, aluminum wheels, and to be able to monitor the tire pressure?
I mean, safety is going to be a big aspect of it. I mean, the aluminum wheels are lighter. It's obviously they look better than the steel wheels, but keeping an eye on things is really maintenance and safety are two big factors in that. When it comes to your bearings or your brakes, depending on which climate you're in, you could be out west where it's 100 degrees constantly, and you may find that the bearing grease burns up at a quicker rate than, say, if you're in the northeast. And the bearings get packed twice a year out west where it's hot, or once a year when you're in the northeast. Even on a new trailer, you want to make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to, so you get the brakes looked at, get the bearings repacked. Really, the list could go on for maintenance on that, but safety is key and maintenance is key.
So from our perspective, you know, how many times of year would you recommend that a customer's looking at? Is it before every journey? Is it what is kind of that safety checklist when it comes to tires?
Well, tires, it could be an every trip thing. As far as the bearings and the brakes go, it's like a 10,000 mile or once a year thing, whatever comes first. Or if you really want to be safe on it, you could even do half that if you want to make sure that everything stays safe, because if you have one bearing go out, it could be catastrophic.
So in terms of tire, wheel, and bearing setup, this is premium in comparison to most campers in the segment. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. The nitrogen filled tires, again, that's a huge bonus to have, because you're checking your tire pressure less, and you're kind of not worrying about it as much when the temperatures change. And the aluminum wheels obviously look better, and they're a lot lighter, so you have more room for cargo.
And I've also noticed that on Grand Design, another nice feature that they offer is a spare tire, which if you are in that situation, you are in that unfortunate circumstance, you do have that spare.
Yeah, so the spare tire on the Imagines are going to be located on that back bumper. Now, if you do have that unfortunate blowout or a puncture in the tire, just remember that you cannot jack the trailer up on the stabilizer jacks. You will need either a floor jack or someone to come out like AAA or a roadside assistant company to help you with that.
And I do think that's important to note, you know, with Grand Design and with their Lion's Head warranty, they are offering that 521. So they do have, you know, a 5-year kind of standard limited warranty on the tires, but they also do have that 1-year no questions asked from Lion's Head. So that's a key premium feature of Grand Design versus basically anybody else out there. And now we're at the back of the camper, Ethan, and I've got a lot of questions for you. I see a ladder, I see some lights, furnace. Talk to me about this and what this Grand Design has.
So first off, you have your 250-pound ladder right here, so keep in mind the weight restrictions on that. It's 250 pounds. This is a great feature to have on the back of the trailer because it's going to allow you to essentially do your roof walk around, check your sealant, do your roof maintenance, really anywhere that you are. You don't have to worry about bringing a ladder with you. When you go camping, you'll have it right there on the back of the trailer. You want to walk the roof, check the corners, the vents. You want to look at all the sealant, make sure it's not lifting up, make sure it's not cracking, drying out, because that could lead to potential leaks down the road.
So some of our Grand Design veterans are very familiar with the golden threads that Grand Design has. They're familiar that, you know, they're making campers with fully walkable roofs, but it's not uncommon for maybe a first-time RVer to go to a lot and see different brands without a ladder on the back. So what does that speak to about this camper, and how does this, you know, compare to the rest, I guess?
I mean, you could look at it a couple ways. They're giving you that ladder. They're giving you a thicker roof to walk on. They're essentially helping you enjoy the trailer and take care of it, as opposed to others that have thinner roofs that you can't walk on. There's no ladder. You got to lug a ladder around. So there's just a couple different ways to look at it.
And there are some safety precautions that go with walking on a roof, right? Never when wet. You have to make sure that you're doing it safe. If you can hook up to a safety harness, that's the way you want to do it. You know, even though it is fully walkable, you certainly want to be safe up there. And how often do I have to check my seals?
So it could go both ways. I mean, every 90 days, a lot of manufacturers are asking that you do your walk-arounds, but if you're sitting under a bunch of trees, honestly, it could be a once-a-week thing, just to go up there, look around, make sure no branches have fallen, puncture the rubber on the roof. It's better to catch those kind of things ahead of time, as opposed to down the road when maybe water's coming from the inside of the trailer.
So is there anything that you know, you have to do on your annual maintenance when it comes to cleaning? Is there any special stuff that you use that you don't use? I mean, what's the process like?
So I mean, there's companies out there that will make a rubber cleaner and a UV protectant. So you can go up there on an annual basis, do your roof scrub with the soap, the cleaner, allow that to dry, and then do your UV protectant to kind of help protect the rubber from the sun. Now, it's not going to protect you from other elements like branches and stuff like that coming down, but as far as treating the rubber itself, that's going to be the best way to do it.
So it won't crack, it won't become brittle.
Right.
You're going to have a longer life out of your roof.
Exactly.
That's fantastic, especially when it comes to things like, you know, the bad word in RVs sometimes is water.
Yep.
And so if you do those steps with your Grand Design, you're going to have happier camping.
Absolutely. The trailer's going to last longer down the road. Really, it's like a car. Maintenance is key on these things. If you maintain it, really, it's going to last for you. If you neglect and don't maintain things, you'll see that it's just going to kind of go downhill right off the bat.
Well, and that also comes into play. You know, Grand Design does have an industry-leading warranty, but there are some things where, as you know, as the camper, they have to participate with. You know, I would have to take care of my coach. You know, there is that expectation there, so you want to stay on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't rely on someone else to really take care of your trailer. It will fall on you as the end user.
Sure. So another question, I guess, is what is that up there? I see this, you know, what is that thing?
So the little black housing right there is going to be your backup camera prep. So
Okay.
It's going to feed off the 12 volts from your marker light. So when you do end up getting that camera, it's going to hook up into that housing. You're going to turn your headlights on the truck. It's going to put power to that camera, and then you're going to have a monitor in the truck that's almost going to look like a GPS, and it's going to allow you to see the back of the trailer.
So that's something that I have to purchase separately, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you can get that through a parts store, and,
Yep.
and you can purchase that. Okay, so when I connect it, there's power to it. Is it wireless? Do I have to wire anything? What does that look like?
Nope, the only wiring is going to be right off the bat, and it's just a quick plug. So if you do it yourself, you'll be able to plug it in, and then it's going to be a Bluetooth connection from the camera to the receiver itself. Now the receiver will have to be plugged into a 12-volt outlet in the truck.
Okay.
But as far as the truck and the trailer go, it's going to be wireless.
So what is the benefit? You know, some of these trucks, I see them out there, you know, people come in really nice tow vehicles all the time. They've got huge mirrors, they have all this technology, but why is it important to utilize a backup camera?
Well, there's a couple things. If you are new, or even if you're seasoned, it's tough to kind of gauge from a mirror how much space you really have from the back of the trailer to wherever you are creeping up to.
Yeah.
To be able to see what's behind you while you're going down the road, or as far as just maneuvering goes, it's going to help you keep a clear eyesight of where your trailer's going.
So really, it's a premium feature when it comes down to its safety.
Yeah.
So now, Ethan, I see there's this last component over here. Now, what is this?
So this is going to be your water heater. So this is going to give you that hot water just like as if you were at home. So there's two different style water heaters in this industry. There's an Atwood that makes one, and Suburban that makes one. The only real difference is going to be what your tanks are made out of. So this is made out of steel, and Atwoods are made out of aluminum. With the steel tanks, you have an anode rod, and due to the heating element being in there and the quality of water, the rod is going to end up taking the brunt of the damage as opposed to the tank. So
now you say damage. What does that mean when it comes to your anode?
Just so the rod itself is going to get eaten away at, and depending on how much you're camping, how much you're using the water heater, this rod could last you half a season, it could last you a season and a half. Really, you're going to use this until there's about 25% left of it.
Okay, so it's not something I need to be worried about.
Nope.
You know, you mentioned damage. This is a new camper. I'm excited about it, but that's something that's just part of the camping experience that maybe people aren't aware of when they're first picking up their camper. So that's why we like to talk to them about that. So, you know, what happens when you get to the point where you have to replace that anode? What do I do?
You can just go to your closest RV parts store. They should have them in stock. It's a very common item in this industry. The only difference with this and the other ones is the Atwood tank is a plastic plug, so you really want to make sure that you are getting the anode rod itself to put back in there.
Got it. So when it comes to the function of this, is there anything else that I need to know, or is it just the anode goes in? How does it work when I'm winterizing the camper, de-winterizing? Is there anything I have to worry about when it comes to that anode?
So the biggest thing when it comes to winterizing is making sure that the tank is empty, because if you were to leave the tank full of water, use the bypass system on the back of the water heater, the tank will freeze, the water will freeze, the tank's going to expand, crack, and then come springtime, you're going to find possible water damage inside the trailer and a water heater that doesn't hold water.
Got it. Okay. So this is where I would find the water heater, you know, usually on the back of an Imagine, or is it always here?
It's going to vary on every model. So depending on the model you're looking at or the model you're camping with, it's going to vary. Now, the way it looks is going to be the same as long as it's your Suburban water heater or that Atwood. It may look a little different.
So for those new campers, when I see this area, what do I have to think about when it comes to maintaining my camper and keeping it up to that pristine level?
So really the only maintenance you're going to do here is make sure that when you pull this off, there's nothing clogging your burner chamber and your kind of your propane sender right here. So there's a little orifice right here. For some reason, spiders really like to go into the burner tubes and clog it. So really, if the trailer sat for a while, go ahead, pull the cover off, take a look around, make sure nothing's clogged, there's no spider webs in and around the water heater, and then you should be good to go.
So that kind of goes to that camping checklist we were talking about up front. Awesome. All right, well, now let's take a look at some other features.
Sure.
So now we're outside of the outside kitchen. On the 2400 BH and some other models that Grand Design offers, there is this feature. We know outside kitchens are really important to folks, but can you kind of take me through what you can expect on this Grand Design? How do I use it? What's the operation? Can you tell me a little bit about it, Ethan?
Sure, yeah, so there's three big features. First of all, you have these thumb latches here that don't require keys, but you do have your 751 key lock right here, so while you're traveling and you want to make sure the door doesn't open up while you're driving, you have three latches to hold that in place. Now there's two big features here. You have your cooktop right here, which is going to have a drop-down propane line that's going to come from under it. It just clips in, and then under the trailer attached to the frame, you're going to have your propane quick connect, which is going to have a rubber travel plug. So anytime you're traveling, make sure that that's in, so that quick connect's not kind of filling with debris being cooked up or kicked up from the tires. So this is essentially going to work the same way as that quick connect you have in the front and the back corner of the trailer. That sleeve's going to push back, and that quick connect's going to go in, and then there's a little dial or knob right here that you're going to open up to allow that propane to flow to the cooktop.
Okay, so then when I'm out here, you've actually got propane direct right into your cooking
Yep,
setup.
and so as long as you did turn that propane on, you're going to have two burners right here that you're able to cook with.
Awesome, that's fantastic. So I see these little flaps here. Anything special I got to do with them?
Yep, so these are just kind of going to be your heat shields while you're cooking. It's going to flip down like this and just kind of act as a barrier for you so nothing's splashing, and it's just kind of keeping the heat where it should be.
Okay, and we know that, you know, our veteran campers, we see them at the rallies for Grand Design, and we see them out there, you know, they know sometimes cooking inside with greasier items, hamburgers, bacon, etc. This is where you want to do it because you do have these guards here. You don't have to worry about the inside of your camper, but it's nicer to have this feature.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, just with that being said, if you're out here camping, you do have this refrigerator to have access to. Now, the only thing with that is going to be it's a 120 volt fridge only, so it's not like the fridge that's inside. It's a two-way, which is 12 volt propane or 120 volts. So that will only start cooling once you get hooked up to your shore power.
okay, so I'd have to be plugged in at a campsite to utilize this feature here. Okay?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, fantastic. So, and this just slides back in and locks into place?
Yep, you just want to make sure that you undo your propane line. Again, that little lever is going to unhook, quick connect pushes in, and then this will latch up underneath. And it'll slide back in.
Awesome. And so if you do run into any issues, it will fit flush there though when you're closing it up. Perfect. So we can close this. And I noticed that this isn't the slam latch, and that's because of these 3 points of contact to make sure that it stays closed during travel. Okay, fantastic. So Ethan, before we head into the camper, I'm noticing some other components on the exterior of this Imagine. Can you kind of take me through some of them? These look like speakers, but I'm unfamiliar with some of these other items. What are they?
Yeah, so at the top, just below that awning, you have your two outside speakers. So the radio, which we can touch on when we go in, you're going to have some speaker zones. You can do inside, outside, but if you want to listen to music while you're out here, you can certainly turn those on, listen to your music. You could even put a DVD in from the inside and listen to it from the outside. Below the speakers, you have your range exhaust right here. So if you are doing that cooking, you have a range fan that you can flip on inside. It's going to vent out just like at home if you were cooking and you wanted to turn that fan on.
Nice. So you get some ventilation and some airflow in your camper.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, what are some of these components down here? It looks like some plugs and maybe a water fill. What are we looking at?
So we'll start here on the left. So I had touched on earlier when we were in the front corner your pressure fill for the fresh tank. Well, this is going to be your gravity fill for the fresh tank. So if you don't have the option to hook a pressurized water source up and you want a gravity fill off of like a jug or anything like that, this would be the go-to for that. And when your fresh tank is either when you're done using it or you just want to drain it, down below here you're going to have a white T-handle, just like your black and gray, and you'll pull that out and allow that to drain on the ground.
Okay. And when do I have to worry about draining it? Is it after each camping trip? When do I have to do that?
So I would get in the habit of doing it, excuse me, every trip, so that way the water's not sitting in there, it becomes stagnant and smells. You want to keep the water as fresh as possible. So go ahead when you're completely done with it, pull the handle, allow it to drain out, keep it open while you're driving, so that way all the movement from going down the road allows all that residual water to dump out.
Got it. Okay. So what else are we looking at here?
Right here you have your 120 volt plug. So if you wanted to plug a TV in, you do have your cable jack right here, so this is going to be fed either from your antenna that's on the roof or your cable feed that's over in that front compartment. So if you wanted to set a TV up out here, hook it into the cable system so that way you can watch TV out under the awning or outside, that's going to be the go-to spot. Right here is going to be your furnace exhaust, so you have your intake and your exhaust. Be mindful if the furnace is running. Try not to stand too close or sit too close. You don't want to breathe the fumes in or anything like that. So keep in mind, again, if you do that TV setup here and you're running the furnace, don't block the intake or exhaust.
Got it. So you'd want to maybe move that down a
Yep.
little bit further down the awning, or maybe a little extended out here as well.
Yep, yeah, just give enough space to be as safe as possible for anything on a table or even yourself.
Gotcha. And so, and speaking of the awning, there is it looks like a power awning out here. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah, so that's going to be switched from the inside. It's a 12-volt awning, so essentially you could run that off your battery. You don't need to be hooked up to 12 volts, so you can be out boondocking and still use your awning.
That's awesome. Now, one thing to know, I've heard some horrors about awnings ripping off from time to time, but that's usually user error. So what are the scenarios from the service side that you've run into with customers and awnings?
So the biggest thing to keep in mind with the awnings, they're there for sun and shade. It's not there to keep you dry from a rainstorm. If you leave the campsite and you have the awning out, try and remember to put it back in before you leave, because all it takes is one gust of wind to kind of twist up the awning arms and make it so you need a new awning setup. Got
it. And that has nothing to do with the build quality. It's just the functionality of the awning itself being attached to, you know, such a well-built trailer, correct?
Yeah, it's there for sun and shade, so any one gust of wind or too much rain could hit it at once, and it doesn't matter what it is, those awnings are going to get destroyed.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm really excited about the exterior here, but let's head inside.
Let's do it.
Now, as we head into this RV, you know, I see there's a handle across the door. Why do they do this, and how do I get inside, Ethan?
So technically this handle could go 3 different ways. Right now it's going over the door, which I like to see because God forbid the door comes unlatched while you're going down the road. It's going to help keep that door in place from swinging open. If you want to open it, you're going to lift up this, you'll feel the spring tension kind of wanting to hold it down. It's going to kick it back into place. Or if you don't want the handle there, you can kick it backwards and keep it flush. But this is really one of those things that it's nice to allow you to pull yourself up into the trailer and just really help you to get in.
Got it.
When it comes time to opening the door, you'll pull the latch. You'll see that the stairs are folded up into the trailer. Now these steps are a new feature from MoreRide. So the old style has pins that hold the feet in. These ones have push button releases that will allow you to kind of easily set where those legs need to be when it comes time to folding it down and making contact with the ground. So
That's
you
a
can
lot
see
more
I threw
convenient.
it off a little bit to show you the difference on setting that up. You just got the push button and it's going to slide down and make contact with the ground, keep it nice and level, and you'll be ready to go.
So when they're talking about this system, Ethan, basically it's going to give me more stability at my campsite, right? Versus, you know, maybe those standard aluminum steps that don't have that solid stance. This is going to be a more stabilized step at my campsite.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say over the last 3 to 4 years, these stairs have really made an impact on the way stability is looked at when it comes to trailers, because with the fold-out steps where you just step on that first step, doesn't matter if your jacks are down, you'll really feel it pull on the floor, the frame of the trailer, and you'll feel the trailer move. With this being the way they are, it's making contact with the ground, and no one's going to feel you coming.
Sure, and also with your foot being there, just reminded me, so these are aluminum steps. Why is that important that they're aluminum?
Rust, the weight factor involved with it. If you had, say, steel steps that are folded up in, it's going to be a lot of weight coming down at you, but really it's going to be the weight factor there and the rust.
Okay, and so when I'm looking at this step above system too, you know, I noticed the ease of which you were able to pull it down, and so I'm wondering if it's the same when it goes back up. So I'm just going to use a couple fingers here, and it looks like it's really a simple system. Almost anybody can use it, and they include this nice handle there. I'm just thinking about my grandmother. She was using some steps, you know, going up standard steps in a house, and I noticed her, you know, on the railing, you know, trying to make sure she had stable steps, but this is a more solid system than what I see in some houses.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's head inside.
Perfect.
So now we're inside the coach, Ethan, and we're at the Compass Connect system, which is a huge component with Grand Design. So can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the big feature on this is, like you said, it's your one control. Up here you have your info for logging on once you download the app. If you want to connect your phone to the system, you'll have your Bluetooth connection here. So when you download that app, it's going to kind of walk you through setting everything up in operation a little more in depth, because you'll have it right there in front of your hands, but you're going to have your info here and your Bluetooth button right there. To the left of that, you're going to have your monitor panel coming across here. So you'll see you have your fresh tank, your black tank, and your gray tanks, 1 and 2. Now, depending on the model, you may only have 1 gray tank or 2. So this one shows 2, but really it only has the 1, so you'll only find that it's going to read on that 1 gray tank scale. And then all the way to the right, you have your battery setup right here, which at the top is going to be charged, and at the bottom it's low. So when you're plugged in, it's going to show charged at all times.
So this is really interesting. So this is basically when we're talking about one control, I either, whether it be through the app in a smartphone if I'm able to have connectivity, or through the kind of standard switching that maybe, you know, folks who have camped for a long time have been used to. You have the redundant switching, as Grand Design calls it. You can basically operate your entire camper through here. Now I did just notice that it went out. Why did that go out like that?
So you could look at it a couple ways. So it has a motion light right here, or a motion sensor, so that way when it senses you're right in front of it, maybe it wants to allow you to use this, so it's going to light up. It's also going to be a battery saver, because these tank sensors are now constantly reading. It's not like the other setups where you have to hit a button in order for it to read. This is constantly going to be on to kind of allow you to more easily check your tank levels.
So that's huge, even having with a motion sensor. I haven't seen that from any other manufacturers. That's a pretty big change for Grand Design. And kind of coming in here at, you know, say it's at night, right? I mean, how common is it where, you know, especially first time RVers, maybe they're getting to their campsite a little late, and this is just a nice feature. It's almost like again, another kind of safety feature almost, where you're just coming in and you can easily access your system.
You know, it is with these motion lights that they're putting in the Grand Design. There's a motion light right in the entryway, but again, there's also that motion for the touchpad, so that way you make sure you're hitting the right button.
Awesome. So if I noticed, you know, with this, I say this is the camper of my dreams. I bought the 2400 BH, and it's got this awesome slide out. Can I, you know, operate that slide from this system?
Yeah, you can. So again, you can either do it from the app once you set it up on your phone, or you do have your controls right here. So it's going to read in and out. So with it being in right now, if you want to run it out, you're just going to hold your finger on the button.
Now I hear that noise, you know, and is that common with an RV to kind of hear that kind of the gears and the movement?
Yep, so on this slide out system, they call it an in-wall slide or a Schwintek slide. It has 2 motors, top left and right, and they are both synced together, so that way when you hit that button, they're both going to start spinning at the same time, and it's going to push that slide out kind of like a drawer guide.
Got it. So as we've been talking, obviously you let your finger off the system here, the slide isn't all the way out. Can I leave my slide like halfway out, or?
No,
you know?
As far as when you're camping, you're going to want to have it either all the way in or all the way out.
And why is that?
Well, so the slide's not making proper seal
Okay.
with the sidewall when it's in or out. So if it's only sitting halfway in or halfway out, water can get in, dirt, debris, pine needles, etc. It's just more problems leading down the road. So if you're ever camping, get in the habit of making sure the slide's all the way out or all the way in. So if you got to run to the bedroom real quick and you just got to squeeze by, sure, you could probably run it out just a little bit, but you really want to get in the habit of keeping it all the way out.
Got it. And so having that tight seal kind of allow, you know, no water, no debris. Now let's say that I am camping and, you know, we're here in Vermont today and it is raining outside. And I've got, you know, water kind of pooled on the slide. I don't have an awning slide topper on my slide out. Can I put my slide in, or what do I have to do?
Yeah, you can. You can put the slide in, but if you want to get as much water off of the slide before you bring it in, if you want to put the jacks up, your stabilizer jacks, and pitch the trailer to allow that water to run off, and then roll the slide in, you do have sweep seals on the side and the top that they're going to help squeegee water off, but you'll still get residual water in. So if you do end up finding yourself bringing the slide in during a rainstorm, maybe a good idea to keep some towels around just in case.
Okay, so it actually could be just the fact that I'm outside in that weather. It has nothing to do with the camper. It's just I've got to take those necessary steps to make sure that the camper stays dry and that, you know, there's no water that I'm bringing in to hurt the camper at all, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So don't be afraid of, oh, the trailer's leaking or anything like that. Just know that those seals will not completely dry the slide once it comes in.
Got it. Okay. All right. So there's something I got to do on my end. So
Yeah.
can you show me some other features on the inside of this? I'm really excited about this coach.
Sure. So just to finish up on the touchpad here, you do have an exterior light switch right here, which is going to do your LED awning light. You have your water pump switch right here in the middle. So if you're doing your dry camping, your fresh tank's reading anywhere on the scale, you know that you can run your pump, pull the water from the fresh tank, and supply your faucets and toilets and etc. But if you're hooked up at the campground, there's no need for your water pump, no need for your fresh tank to have water in it, because you're going to utilize that campground. Now, on the right-hand side here, you have two switches for your water heater. So you have gas and electric. If for some reason you don't want to run it on electric, you can make sure your gas is on, turn the switch on, allow the water to heat from gas, or vice versa. If you don't want to run it on gas, you can run it on electric, but you do need to be hooked up to 120 volts in order for that to work.
Got it. So you've mentioned, you know, heating water, making sure you're taking warm showers. If you have that luxury, that sometimes that's kind of the nice part of camping, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
With that, you know, how long does it take for water to heat up in my camper? What should my expectation be?
So as far as your expectations go, I mean, it would be just like if you are at home, you're going to have hot enough water. It's going to make you comfortable. Obviously, you're going to be limited because of the tank size. But they are working on allowing them to recuperate faster. The gas is going to heat the water faster, so if you're okay with running it on propane, give yourself about 30 minutes to have that adequate water heater from the start to finish. Or if it is if it's already heated and it's just recovering, you'll find that it's a lot less time.
Got it. So let's say, you know, this is obviously a bunkhouse model, but, you know, there's a lot of great Grand Design models out there that would be, you know, deemed a couples coach. But, you know, you still might get some guests, some loved ones, or maybe people you don't really want to go camping, but they still come camping with you, and you've got a full house, or full camper, I should say. You know, what should I expect when it comes to, say, 4 people if they all want to shower in the morning? What's that like for the hot water usage?
Just allow enough time for it to recover. Obviously, it's going to come down to how much hot water they're taking a shower with, and how long the shower is, and there's a lot of factors to put into play there, but just make sure you allow enough time for the water to recover between showers.
Okay, so it might not be that it's not working for any reason, it's just that you haven't given enough time to recover.
Yeah, it's not one of those on-demand system where it's constantly going to heat. You will, once you deplete the water, you'll have to allow time for it to recover.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, take me through some other features in here.
Perfect. So starting right when you walk in, you'll see that you have your bathroom door right here. So a really nice feature with this is going to be your kind of tall but narrow storage shelf right here. So this can kind of work as your vanity. You can roll your towels, extra storage for the bathroom. You could even do some holding tank chemicals right here. Those will fit on any of the shelves.
So talk to me about that. Why do I need a holding tank chemical? We've talked about the water systems outside, but how does that solution there come into play in my camping experience?
So when it comes to your black tank, so that's, again, it's going to be your human waste, and all that's going to feed from the toilet. Toilet's going to go right down into the black tank, and depending on which product you use, it's going to tell you 2 ounces treats 40 gallons or 4 ounces treats 50 gallons. Just depends on the product, but you're always going to want to make sure that you're keeping up with using these toilet chemicals, because it's going to help keep the smell down, help break things down, and just allow you to keep that tank as clean as possible.
Got it. And so in terms of breaking things down, you had earlier mentioned RV toilet paper. Can you talk to me a little bit why it's important in your Grand Design to use RV grade toilet paper versus maybe a Charmin that you pick up at a supermarket?
So it comes down to what it's made of, and I guess the thickness. So this is a 2-ply right here, and it's a material that as soon as it hits water, it starts breaking down. So the Charmin 10-ply, if you were to use it in an RV, you're going to find that it's going to clog your sewer, and the tank won't drain for you. So you always want to make sure that when you are camping, you find toilet paper that says septic or RV toilet paper.
Got it. So that's going to allow me to be able to, maintain the tanks, to not worry about, impacting any sensors in a negative way. It's just going to allow for greater functionality of my camper, and it's kind of that maintenance schedule, right? That I'm using the right approved materials with my new Grand Design.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you just said, a touch on the sensors. This is going to allow the breakdown process to not affect the way the sensors read, as if that 10-ply toilet paper, which doesn't break down, it's going to get gunked up on the sidewall. And if you're not dumping it with enough water, your sensors, the toilet paper is going to dry on the sidewall of the tank, and it's never going to read right.
Got it. Okay. All right. So that makes a lot of sense from the functionality of that. So Ethan, what other important features should I know about in the bathroom area?
So there's two biggies in here. One is something that I touched on when we were outside before, in that front water cubby. So in the bathroom here, you have your GFI reset. So that's going to kind of protect all those outlets that are outside or may be affected by water. So if for whatever reason those outlets stop working, come check here for a trip real quick, and hopefully you'll be back on your way with your outlets.
So let's say that I wasn't, though. What would I do in that situation?
Well, there's a couple little tactics you could look for. You could look for your breaker panel, maybe a breaker tripped, just a loose connection somewhere, maybe even the device that you have plugged into the outlet stopped working. It's tough to say, and then if anything progresses further than that, maybe you may have to call your dealer.
Got it. But the good thing is that, and you, I'm sure, deal with this on the service side. You can work people through, on the phone and kind of troubleshoot and help them through if they run into an issue.
Yeah,
like that.
Absolutely. Especially if they just recently got set up at the campground. The last thing we want to have them do is pack up the trailer right when they get set for their weekend trip and bring it to the dealership. So we always try to kind of work everyone through as many steps that they can themselves before they pack it up and bring it in.
That's awesome. So what else in the bathroom should I know about?
One of the other biggies is this exhaust fan right here. So it's a 12-volt fan. There is options to upgrade it to like a 10-inch fan, but this one is still a 12-volt exhaust fan. There's a light switch on the wall, which will kick that on. So while you're showering, all that steam and stuff like that, you want to vent it, turn the fan on just like at home.
Got it. So 12 volt, can run it off my battery.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. That's great. So let's roll out into the other area of the coach here. So obviously we didn't get the slide fully out. We can still, operate in this area, move around, but you were really talking about the functionality. So all I would do is just hit this here and we would get the slide all the way out. Now I'm hearing that noise. I'm seeing the carpet kind of ripple up a little bit, but it looks like it's relatively flush. If the carpet were in any, instance to kind of fold over or turn, what do I do? Do I correct it? Do I let the slide go itself? What should I do?
I mean, first let it do its thing. Let it go out, set itself in the right position. Sometimes if that carpet will not fully set like the slide is, go ahead, just straighten it out with your hands.
Okay, got it. So when it gets to this point, I'm noticing that it just kind of stopped. Is that me? Is it an automatic thing?
Yeah, so it's an automatic thing. Once the motor sense that they're kind of not being able to push it out anymore, they're going to amp out, they're going to shut off, and right then and there, you're good to take your finger off the button and the slide's out all the way.
Got it. So you also mentioned at this point, if we were bringing it in, you were talking about seals earlier. Does this mean when it's fully out that I have my seals in place for weather and other protection?
Yeah, so you'll have your exterior sweep seals that are making contact with the sidewall and the top of the roof, and then you'll also have your interior bulb seal and fascia seal, kind of keeping all the elements out of the trailer.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's say if I was camping and, all the technology, for some reason, maybe there's a, lightning that comes through or something unfortunate happens at the campsite. I've got my slide out. It's, Sunday evening. I want to go home. What do I do?
Well, there's a couple things you could do on this Schwintek system. So you would first have to locate where the controller is for it.
Okay.
If you completely don't have power, the only way to get it in is going to be to go outside the trailer, disengage the motors, and kind of pop them out of the track, and then you'll have to push the slide in and find a way to hold it in place, because it will, while you're going down the road, want to pop out. But if you do have power and for some reason the slide's just not acting right, find the controller. You can hit the command button 6 times, hold it on the 7th time, and then it's going to go into kind of override mode. And then as long as there's no real power issue, it's going to tell the slide to come in.
Got it. So what I'm comforted by is you're telling me that there's a manual override. So just like with that power tongue jack up front, there is a manual override if I need it.
Yeah, there is. It's a little trickier, but at the end of the day, yeah, there's a way to get the slide in with no power.
And that's certainly something that you know, we can walk a guest through.
Yeah.
So moving through here, can you talk to me a little bit about the outlets, the operation inside, and how that all works with this whole electrical system that you've been explaining to me?
Yeah, so any outlet you see, whether it's down by your legs, up under a cabinet, behind a TV, that's all 120 volt. Okay. There are 12 volt USB outlets which will feed off the battery, but as far as your 120 volt outlets, you will need to be plugged into shore power. So your TV, your microwave, those all plug into the 120 volt outlets, so you will need that shore power to feed it.
Got it. So let me ask you a question. So I noticed, you know, some Grand Designs, they don't come with generators. We know in like Momentum series they do, but can I bring my own portable generator if I do want a boondock, and how does that kind of work?
Yeah, you can. There are sometimes going to be specific adapters, and it will probably come down to which generator you purchase or currently have, but you want to make sure that the generator you get is enough to supply the trailer. The AC is the biggest draw on those things. So like a 13.5 BTU AC or a 30 amp trailer, you want to be a little over 3,000 watt generator. So that way you're really giving the trailer enough to run off of.
So that actually just brought to mind a question. ACs. Obviously, ACs are a huge component. People want to be cool on hot days. So talk to me a little bit about the air conditioning system in this Grand Design.
Yeah, so this one specifically has a Furrion AC. The thermostat is over in the bedroom. When it comes to hot summer days, the best thing you can do to keep the trailer as cool as possible, keep the shades down and start running that in the morning so it can keep up with the temperature increase. Because if you were to set up in the middle of a 100-degree day and the trailer's already 90 degrees, it may be tough to quickly take that temp down.
Got it. So let's say I do some different kind of camping. So some, in the fall here in Vermont, you can literally have swings where you'll go from a 30-degree morning to sometimes it's crazy. It can go up to 75, 80 degrees. I personally like to, run a little bit colder. So what am I dealing with when it comes to my AC or my heating system with those fluctuations? I mean, does it tax the system? Is it going to work perfectly where I come right in and it's instantly cool? I mean, what can my expectation be?
Well, patience is key when it comes to that. The things do take time to adjust temperature. So again, like I was saying, shades, that's a biggie when it's hot. But say it's cold in here, but the sun's beating down, just like in a car, go ahead and open the shades up, allow that sunlight to come in, and it's going to help heat things up faster in here for you.
Got it. Okay, so it's not going to be kind of an instant cool, which can sometimes be the expectation.
Right, yeah, it will take time.
Okay, got it. All right, thanks so much. Let's talk about this kitchen. Let's get over here.
Sure. So starting right here at your cooktop, you have your Furrion cooktop with your glass top. Now while you're traveling, make sure that's folded down in the travel position, because the last thing you want to do is have it up while you're traveling. Hit a bump, it's glass, it can break.
Okay.
Now make sure your propane is on when you want to use this, and you can select from your 3 top burners here. So your middle, your right, or your left. You can turn it to the ignite button and then use your igniter. Again, make sure the gas is on. That burner will light. If you want to use the right, that'll light, or your center burner, that'll light. There's more BTUs coming out of that center burner, so if you have a bigger pot and you need to cook faster, use that center burner because you're going to have a bit more coming out of there. As far as your oven goes, if you want to light the pilot on that, you're going to do the same thing as the burners. Turn it to the flame. You're going to press it in and hold, and then you would end up coming down into the oven just to keep an eye on it while you're holding that in, and then use your igniter right there. So this igniter is going to light your stove, your burners, and your oven pilot.
Okay. So when it comes to, I have a lot of flexibility when it comes to cooking in this Grand Design.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So in terms of the cooktop as well, as you were saying, this seems pretty easy. It just is going to fold down like this. Now we've been talking a lot about different electrical capacities and whatnot, and you know, the microwave is usually a hot button issue. So talk to me a little bit about it, depending on the style of camping. If I'm boondocking, can I use it?
Yeah, so if you're boondocking and you're just feeding off 12 volts, no, you can't use your microwave. There are instances where you could have a bigger battery bank with an inverter. That'll power the microwave as long as it's wired to run the microwave.
What about a generator?
The generator you can. Brings us back to make sure that the capacity of the generator is enough to run the items in this trailer.
Yeah.
But bringing you back to the initial question, no, you're not going to be running it off the battery. You'll need 120 volts coming into the trailer.
Gotcha. So let's talk about a standard campground then, right?
Yeah.
You know, maybe you do a mix of camping. Can you run it when you're at your standard campground with an electrical hookup?
Yeah, you can. So you're going to be plugged into your shore power hookup, and depending on if it's a 50 amp trailer and depending on the adapters you're using, it could get a little more technical.
Sure.
With the style adapters, but normal campground, normal hookup, 100% you're running your microwave.
Fantastic. All right. So, and then I'm also noticing you mentioned a range before. Is this what we were talking about out there? So that ventilation is.
Yeah. So if you hit that button on the left, that's going to be your fan, and then the button on the right is going to be your light.
Awesome.
And those will run off 12 volts, so those can feed from the battery.
Great. That's great to know. Anything else that we should cover here in the kitchen?
Other than your sink, you have a stainless steel sink with kind of your. You could use this for drying dishes. You could use it for a little more counter space if you wanted, because it's stainless steel. You can put some weight on this, so there's a couple options for this. Again, you have your outlets there, which are going to be protected by that GFI. You have your faucet here, which is a sprayer, so you can pull that out and essentially help wash your dishes. You have your countertop extension right here, which is just going to flip up. You'll hear it click. It's going to lock into place, and there's even more counter space.
Got it.
In order to release that, you're going to look for the two triggers. You're going to lift up and pull on those, and then that's going to clip back down into place. Always make sure that with you having a slide right here, that this countertop extension is down when you run the slide.
Got it. So you're saying I could run into issues if I kept that open?
Yeah. You're
Okay.
going to end up causing damage to the countertop.
Okay. All right. And I'm sure you've never seen that before.
Yeah, we won't go there.
So looking at the refrigerator, we've talked a little bit about that. We talked about gas, electric, propane. You know what?
Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
So the refrigerator is a two-way refrigerator. So what that means, we can go ahead and open it up so you can see everything. But what that means is it will run on 120 volts or it will run on gas. But you will need 12 volts in order to run it on gas. So you'll need that battery charge. And in order to operate this, you'll hit that button once. You'll see the light kick on. You'll know it's on. And then you can go through your settings on this and hit that. So right now it says auto. So that's going to kind of feed off of what's going on with the trailer's electrical system. If you're hooked up to shore power like we are now, it's going to light up AC, 120 volts. If you want to run it on gas, you can just hit that button again and it's going to go switch over to gas. So even if you're hooked up to 120 volts and you switch to gas, it's going to run on gas. The most common thing though is going to be your auto feature. So if you unplug the trailer, it's going to kick right over to gas. Just keep in mind, as far as safety goes, propane's got to be off while you're going down the road.
Got it. And that seems like a question that probably comes up a lot, right? First time RVers might not be aware of that you should not, under federal regulation, run propane when you're going down the road.
Correct. Yeah. Just it poses a huge safety risk if anything was to happen.
Gotcha. But it does sound like there's some safeguards in here as well, in terms of just if you're at your campsite and you are hooked up to that shore power like you're talking about, but for some reason the campground loses power for the night, you don't happen to have a generator with you, but you do have full propane tanks and you're safely parked, that you do kind of have a switch over there. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as that battery's charged and you have it on that auto feature, it's going to kick right over once the refrigerator calls for more cooling, because at that point, hopefully you're already cooled to where you need to be, and then it's going to automatically kick the gas. You'll wake up and find yourself with a cold fridge still.
Got it. So let me ask you about this, because I know even with some residential fridges, they're very different, right? Your household fridge, some of them are almost instant cool, gas, electric, and then there's some different trends in the RV industry as well. So what's the cooling period like? Say I just barely hooked up my camper, I'm taking it from the dealership, for some reason it wasn't plugged in. What am I looking at for cooling my food?
So doing a pre-cool, I mean, believe it or not, the manufacturers want to essentially allow a full day to pre-cool. So that way everything essentially works the way it's supposed to. Again, a big factor, like I had touched on, is the levelness of the trailer. As long as it's level front to back and side to side, that's going to allow this to run as efficiently and smoothly as possible. So if you want it to cool a little faster, we have seen that if it's running off propane, it will cool faster for you. So if you're in a hurry to kind of get out there and camp, throw it over to gas while you're pre-cooling at home, and then you'll be ready to go.
Got it. So there is a bit of a period. It's not just a plug and go kind of thing.
Yeah. No.
Okay. All right. And then in terms of efficiency, you were mentioning, I know we're showing this right now, you would not want to keep this open for any prolonged period of time considering the size of the fridge as well. I mean, it is oversized in the RV realm, but you know, first time buyers, this might be a different experience for them. So can you talk about the efficiency and how you need to treat these refrigerators?
Yeah, when it comes to RV refrigerators that are cooling unit based, the longer you keep the doors open, the longer it's going to take to recuperate what you just lost as far as temperature goes. It's like a 30 seconds equals a half hour of cooling time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you want to make sure that you know what you're looking for, you get in and you get out.
So that's something great to know though, from the efficiency standpoint, so 30 seconds can equal 30 minutes of additional cooling that's required?
Yeah.
That's pretty significant. Wow. That's really interesting. I really appreciate it on this.
Yeah, and another thing to consider when you're on those hot days and you're struggling to keep the fridge cool, pack the fridge from the bottom to the top. Keep those fins in the back as open and able to breathe as possible, because airflow inside there is a big factor when it comes to cooling as well. So pack from the bottom up.
Got it. Okay, that's a great tip. Thank you. Now, Ethan, I see something down there by your leg. What is that down there?
So that's going to be your LP and carbon detector. So it's kind of a dual safety device, but it's 12 volts. It's hooked directly to your battery system, but it's there for your safety. So it's going to sense carbon or propane.
Got it. Okay, so let me throw this out there, because I had this question earlier. I didn't ask it, but propane. If I smell propane on my campsite, what do I do?
First things first, just go shut the propane off, and then you'll have to take it from there and figure out, okay, was it your trailer that was producing that? Make sure all the burners are off, shut down anything that possibly could be running off propane, and then you'll have to kind of work from there. But if you ever smell any kind of propane leak and you're not actively using a propane system, shut your propane tanks off.
Got it. Okay, so that's designed for safety.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like your smoke detector that's up there.
Got it.
It's there for you.
And so that's what that is there?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. That's good to know. And are these usually in the same spot in RVs, or just is it depending on the Grand Design?
Yeah, it's going to be a model specific on where they run them, but the LP and carbon detectors, or when they're comboed, they'll be down low. If you have a standalone carbon, you may find it a little up higher. The smokes are always going to be on the ceiling, but your LP detectors are always going to be down low.
Got it. So totally transitioning here, I know that you were mentioning the slide and making sure that this is down when you're traveling. I do know that different Grand Design models have different door setups, and you have to be really careful about that. So can you talk to me, even in this 2400 BH, how this door setup is, how it needs to be? I see some straps and whatnot. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so this is a sliding bedroom door for privacy. So this is your travel latch. Just like with the stovetop, you want to make sure this is fastened while you're traveling, and it's just going to slide on this door track like that. So that way, if you're in here, your guests are out there, you do have that privacy. Now, there's no issues with this being open or closed with the slide out, but that doesn't mean there's other models out there that are not set up differently. You always want to check your surroundings with the slide out when you're running it in and running it out.
Gotcha. So is there anything else that I need to think about when it comes to those kind of, stowaway features, or have it in a certain place when traveling down the road? I mean, just making sure that there aren't any unnecessary headaches that, maybe get created because something wasn't put away correctly.
It kind of all comes down to what you set up while you're camping. Coffee makers, candles, pictures. It's anything that you set up after your initial stop at the campground, you're going to want to pack right back up. The only things that can really be kept up are things that have safety latches or travel latches or tie downs for that matter.
Got it. And I know that the engineers, I'm sure, spend a lot of time thinking about those features. So definitely want to pay attention to those.
Absolutely.
Anything in the bedroom that you'd want to point out, kind of standard for Grand Design, or anything that I'd have to be aware of from the first time camping perspective?
I mean, not really, other than your accessories. So you'll have your storage under the bed, and then you'll have your outlets on both sides with your USBs. You'll have your TV jacks over on the wall, your reading lights on the left and the right side of the bed. You do have another 14 by 14 inch vent up there, so if you want that kind of natural airflow to come in and out of the trailer, that's going to be your ticket right there, or your windows.
So let me ask you a question when it comes to TVs in the bedroom, okay? Because I see there's an awesome TV here in this living space, and it's not uncommon for Grand Designs to come loaded with electronics.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of them I see maybe a sticker sometimes that says, "Hey, backed for a TV." What does that mean?
It's kind of just pinpointing where, and if you look on the wall here, it's just kind of pinpointing where their backer is for a TV. But just because, say, you have space for a 40-inch TV doesn't mean it's safe enough to put a TV there. If you have any questions on what size TV you want to mount, always call your dealer first and clarify with them. If you're traveling with the TV up on the wall, make sure that there's travel straps, like say this door or the shower doors. You want to make sure that it's fastened one way or another, so that way it's not coming out and moving all over the place.
Got it. Now, another thing that comes to mind is depending on the type of camping that you're doing, when you are getting to that point of maybe putting the slide in for any reason, is debris on the floor, right? That can be totally kind of changing gears here, but what's your experience like that? What do I have to do when I do want to bring this slide in?
First things first, as far as debris goes, if you have a broom, go ahead and sweep the floor. Make sure there's no rocks, pine needles, leaves, really anything that can pose a risk of the floor being damaged or the slide being damaged. You want to kind of keep it as clean as when you bought it.
Got it. Okay. So Ethan, you've shared a lot about the interior of this coach. What else do I have to think about when it comes to regular maintenance with this camper?
Believe it or not, it's going to be the cleanliness. So again, going back to the floor, keeping that clean for the slide out, your return air grills on your furnace and your air conditioner. Like if you have pets around or just the dust and any kind of debris that can get sucked up into them, it's going to kind of impede the way they operate efficiently. So the cooling from the AC or the airflow coming from the furnace, those are the two biggies right there. You could keep the windows clean so the seals are sealing properly, and then the sink drains, etc. The list could go on for little details like that, but the biggies are going to be your return air grills and keeping the floor clean.
Got it. So we've talked a lot about electrical systems because I feel like so many people overlook the componentry involved in camping.
Yeah.
Okay, whether you're boondocking, using a portable generator, or you're hooked up. So a big part of that, and we talked about it with the GFCIs, are fuses.
Yeah.
So can you really just cover that and hit on that point?
Yeah, so the breakers and the fuses, which are actually right by your feet behind this compartment door. So if you open this, that's going to be a little push button to access this. You'll see how it's labeled. You'll see how your 12-volt fuses are labeled. These are your 120-volt breakers right here, and these are your 12-volt system fuses there. So they're essentially like automotive ATC blade fuses. So you have 240s right there, which are your main 12-volt system fuses for the converter and your battery charger. So if one of those blows, or say both of them blows, nothing 12-volt will work. So your lights, your refrigerator board, nothing is going to work. Your outlets will still be live because that's 120 volts, but the biggies are to keep some spare fuses just in case, because you don't want to get stuck.
Right, so kind of in a camp-ready kit, kind of with some of the other items that we touched on, you want to have some spare fuses.
Yeah, little, I mean, here you only have the 40s and the 15s, but just a little miscellaneous bag of fuses just to keep in a drawer is fine.
Gotcha. So when it comes to really knowing where this is in the camper, talking about your other maintenance, that really covers the internal operation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.